It started on a Thursday. Just a regular day, the kind you don't expect to remember. I'd wrapped up early at work. Nothing major, just a few meetings canceled. And I figured I'd use the time to do something thoughtful. Emily had been talking all week about her dinner plans with the girls. New place downtown, supposedly hard to get a table at. She was excited. I thought maybe I'd swing by and drop off that lemon tart from Frost and Crumb she always craves. It wasn't meant to be a big gesture. Just a small one. The kind couples do when they're still paying attention. Traffic wasn't bad, surprisingly, and I made it to the area in under 15 minutes. I pulled into the lot behind the restaurant, the one Emily had named earlier, the one she'd specifically said was for just the girls. I wasn't planning to go inside or anything. I figured I'd leave the dessert with the hostess and be on my way before she even noticed. But fate, I guess, had a different plan. Before I could even get out of my car, I spotted her. Emily. She wasn't walking inside, wasn't waiting at the entrance or scrolling her phone near the valet. No, she was in the parking lot, sitting in the passenger seat of a white convertible with the top down. The car was parked under a street lamp, tucked a few spots down from me. I nearly didn't see her, but once I did, I couldn't unsee what came next. There was a man in the driver's seat. I didn't recognize him, maybe early 40s, athletic build, kind of guy who probably owns too many button-downs and knows how to make a first impression. From where I sat, I could see his hand resting casually over the center console, and Emily's fingers were threaded through his. They weren't talking, at least not with words. They were laughing, the kind of laugh you don't fake when you're trying to hide something. Her head tilted toward him, like she was hanging on to whatever he was saying. I knew that laugh. I'd seen it 100 times, at dinner, on walks, on lazy Sunday mornings when we were just lying in bed. It was the laugh she gave when she felt safe, when her guard was down. And here she was giving it to someone else. I froze. My first instinct was to question what I was seeing. Was it really her? Was I misinterpreting this? But the doubts didn't last. I knew my wife. I knew her silhouette, her hair when it caught the wind, the denim jacket she always wore in early fall. There was no mistake. She hadn't seen me. My car was angled just enough behind another SUV that I was mostly shielded. And I don't know why, but I didn't move, didn't storm over, didn't shout or demand answers. I just sat there, still gripping the steering wheel, my heart thudding against my chest like it was trying to break out. I looked down at the dessert on the passenger seat, the lemon tart in its little white box, still tied with a bow because I asked the girl at the counter to make it look nice. Suddenly, it felt ridiculous, like a prop in someone else's scene. I picked up my phone. I didn't know what to say, what to do. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard, and then I typed, "Hope the skies stay clear tonight. Looks like you've got sunshine already." I didn't know why I said that. It wasn't bitter, wasn't angry, but something about it felt right. Like I was acknowledging what I saw without giving her the confrontation she probably didn't think I was capable of. I sent it and waited. Exactly 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Her name popped up, Emily Yellowheart. I answered. "Hey babe," she said, too casually. Her voice was light, like she was in the middle of a great evening. "I just got here. Traffic was awful. I'm waiting for everyone. They're running late. I didn't want to go in alone, so I'm just hanging in the parking lot." My throat tightened, but I said nothing. Just let her fill the silence. "Oh," she added quickly. "And funny story. I actually ran into one of Dana's coworkers right as I parked. Total coincidence. He offered to keep me company until the others got here. Super nice guy. I think he's giving me a ride to the restaurant around the corner." That caught my attention. I hadn't heard anything about a restaurant switch. "You said it was the spot off Pine?" I asked, keeping my tone even. "Yeah," she replied, faltering for just a second. "But Dana wanted to try somewhere else last minute. I don't know why. She's always changing plans. Anyway, it's just a few blocks down." "You sure about that?" She paused. "Yeah, why? Everything okay?" I could almost hear her brain working overtime, trying to figure out what I knew, if anything. I swallowed. "Just wondering. You said you were going out with the girls, and now you're waiting in a car with a guy I've never heard of. heading to a different restaurant than the one you told me about. Feels a little off. There was a silence on her end. Not long, maybe 2 seconds, but it was enough. Ryan, she said finally, her tone softening into something defensive. Please don't turn this into a thing. You know how flaky Dana is. And I didn't even plan on running into this guy. He's just being polite. We're literally just sitting here waiting. Nothing's going on. She let out a laugh, the kind she uses when she's nervous. You sound jealous. It's cute, but there's nothing to be jealous of. Cute, that's what she said. I forced a breath out through my nose. All right, I said. Have fun. Thanks, babe. Love you. I didn't say it back. I just hung up. She texted again 10 minutes later, sending a blurry photo of a charcuterie board with some caption like, "Girls' night in full swing." But the angle was tight, no people in the frame. Could have been taken anywhere. It felt like a response to something unspoken, like she was trying to prove she was where she said she'd be. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove home in silence, that box of dessert still unopened next to me. Every light I hit felt like a warning I hadn't listened to soon enough. When I got back, the house felt colder than usual. I sat at the kitchen counter with the lights off, just the glow of the fridge spilling across the tile. The silence was louder than anything she could have said on the phone. Was I overreacting? Maybe. But I've learned that your gut doesn't lie. It just waits for you to stop ignoring it. And mine had been restless for a while now. That night, I didn't ask her any more questions. I didn't push. She came home after midnight, smelling like lavender and someone else's cologne. She kissed my cheek, told me it was a fun night, and disappeared into the bathroom. I stared at the TV, not watching, barely breathing. My mind kept looping back to the parking lot, to that laugh, to the way she held his hand like she'd done it before. And I realized something. You don't need someone to confess to know the truth. Sometimes, all it takes is one glance from a distance, one small, unplanned moment, to realize that something you trusted is slipping through your fingers, and you never even saw the crack forming. The morning after the parking lot, I woke up before my alarm. That never happens. Usually, I'm the one who needs 2 snoozes and a splash of cold water to get moving. But not that day. I was wide awake, staring at the ceiling while the early light filtered through the blinds. My chest felt heavy. Not painful, just weighted, like I was carrying something I didn't know how to put down. Emily was still asleep beside me, or pretending to be. Her breathing was steady, turned away from me, arms tucked under the blanket. I didn't move, just watched the sliver of light on the wall slowly shift. It's strange how a single moment, a single image, can pull everything else into focus. I didn't know it yet, but my brain had already started piecing things together. Little things. The kind of details you ignore when you're trying to believe everything's fine. Like how she'd started coming home later. Not just once or twice, often. She'd always been pretty consistent about her schedule. But over the last couple months, she'd walk in around 8, sometimes later, saying traffic was crazy or meetings had run over. I didn't think much of it at the time. We both worked. We were busy. Life happens. But then there was the phone thing. I noticed it gradually. One evening, we were watching some dumb reality show together. Something she insisted I'd hate, but secretly I'd gotten into it. I leaned over to grab a blanket and happened to glance at her screen. She tilted it away so quickly it was almost subtle. Almost. It happened again. And again. Soon it wasn't just when I was nearby, it was all the time. She used to leave her phone face up on the coffee table. Now it was always screen down. And she'd changed her lock screen code. Not that I was trying to snoop, but I noticed. I mean, you live with someone long enough, you start to recognize patterns, even the invisible ones. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid. Everyone deserves privacy, right? Maybe she had something planned. A birthday trip. A surprise. But my birthday came and went. Nothing. And the distance between us? It grew louder. Not just physical, emotional. Her words felt colder. More mechanical. There was less softness in how she looked at me. Less laughter in our conversations. She'd get irritated easily over nothing. like if I asked about her day or offered to help with something. I remember once asking if she wanted to do a movie night. Just us. Her response was something like, "Can we not plan every second together?" It stung. Not because she wanted space, but because of how defensive she got. Like spending time together was suddenly a burden. There were more red flags once I started actually paying attention. She'd always been a little picky with her scent. 2 perfumes she rotated depending on the day. But lately there were new smells. Not hers. Not mine. Once it was a cologne, woodsy, sharp. Faint, but there. Another time I noticed hotel shampoo, that generic citrusy stuff. When I asked if she stayed somewhere, she brushed it off, saying she showered at the gym after a workout class. But she never mentioned going to the gym that day. And when I asked what class, she blinked and said, "Spin." She hates spin. I didn't press. I wanted to believe her. And then there were the hotel charges. That one nearly slipped past me completely. A few weeks ago, I glanced at our shared budget tracker, something we both used to stay organized. I noticed a charge from a boutique hotel downtown. Not a chain. Not work-related. I asked about it casually. "Oh," she said. "That's for a corporate offsite we did. We had to book it under personal cards and got reimbursed." Made sense at the time. But she works remotely. When I asked who organized it, she just said, "Upper management." The weird part was there was another hotel charge the following week. A different one, same neighborhood. This time she said it was a happy hour that turned into a spontaneous overnight when a friend had too much to drink. She stayed to keep her safe. When I asked which friend, she said, "Dana." Same Dana she claimed was flaky last night. I kept brushing it off, telling myself not to be that guy. The suspicious one. The clingy one. The one who reads too much into everything. But now, after seeing her in that car with that man, laughing, hands intertwined like it was normal, all those random details weren't so random anymore. I sat at the table that morning with a cup of coffee I didn't want, just staring out the window while Emily moved around upstairs. I could hear the shower running. She always plays music while she gets ready. That morning was no different. But even the playlist she chose felt strange. It was one of the old ones. Our road trip mix. The songs we used to scream at full volume on long drives. Was she trying to remind herself of who we were? Or trying to mask the guilt? She came downstairs eventually, dressed for work. Blazer, heels, hair still damp. She smiled like everything was fine. Said something about having a busy day ahead and kissed my cheek on the way out. Her lipstick left a faint mark. I didn't wipe it off. After she left, I sat in silence for a long time. The house felt unfamiliar, like I was in someone else's life. I started going through our texts not out of paranoia, but because I needed to see the shift, to find the moment when things started to change. I scrolled back months. Her messages used to be full of warmth, little jokes, random photos of things that reminded her of me. Lately, they were all short, dry. Logistics. ETA. Running late. Be home soon. Don't wait up. Felt like reading a stranger's thread. Then I remembered something else. Something that hadn't seemed important until now. About 2 months ago, we went to a dinner party. One of her coworkers had just bought a house, and Emily wanted to show up as a team player. I didn't know anyone there, but I tried to blend in. Near the end of the night, I went to grab us drinks and came back to find her in the corner, talking to some guy I didn't recognize. Tall, well-dressed, too well-dressed for that kind of party. She saw me approaching and introduced us, but only barely, just said his name was Chase and that he was in marketing. The vibe was off, like I'd interrupted something. He didn't make eye contact with me. She didn't offer more. I brushed it off. Now I couldn't stop wondering, was that him? The man in the car? The one she laughed with like they had history? I opened my laptop and started digging. Her company's team page didn't list anyone named Chase. LinkedIn, no matches tied to her department. I wasn't trying to be obsessive. I just needed something concrete. Anything. But there was nothing. And maybe that was worse because it meant she'd hidden him well. Too well for someone who was just a coworker or a friend of a friend. That night I didn't confront her. Couldn't. Not yet. I needed more than suspicion. I needed the truth. There's something strange about catching someone in a lie when they don't know they've been caught. They carry on, smile, make plans, talk about the future like nothing's changed. Meanwhile, you're stuck holding this invisible weight, the knowledge that what's being said and what's real don't match. That split in reality becomes your own private hell. One where you smile back and pretend, just to gather a little more time, a little more truth. That was me for the next few days. Emily didn't change anything. She still kissed my cheek before leaving for work. Still left coffee brewing. Still asked if I wanted to do something over the weekend like we were normal. Like she hadn't been in another man's car holding his hand while telling me she was waiting for her friends. I didn't ask questions. I didn't press. I just watched. But I knew. That was the difference. And I started looking. I wasn't out for revenge. Not yet. I just needed clarity. Proof. I didn't want to keep walking around with this heavy fog in my head. So I did what anyone would do. I checked social media. Nothing from her, of course. Emily was always careful online. Private profile. No location tags. No posts unless they were completely curated. But Kelly, one of her acquaintances, the kind you only really see at birthdays or the occasional double date, was different. Kelly had always been casual with her stories. Never too personal, but always posting. I remembered she had been part of a group Emily mentioned a few weeks ago. Something about a trip to Oregon. A girls' only getaway for a long weekend. That had been her exact phrasing. It had sounded innocent at the time. I even offered to help her pack. She left early Friday morning and came back Sunday night. A little sunburned, smiling like she just finished a yoga retreat. She said it was healing. That word stuck out to me now. Healing. It had felt like she'd gone to a spa. But now I wasn't so sure. I found Kelly's page easily. Still public. Still full of the usual. Lattes, beach views, filtered selfies. I tapped through her story highlights and landed on one labeled Coast. A wave icon. I hesitated before clicking. Something in me already knew what I was about to see. But I had to see it anyway. The first clip was harmless. Just the beach. Then came a group *T of girls toasting drinks at a bar. Emily wasn't in it. Then a panoramic video of a rooftop pool. The kind you only find at boutique hotels that cost more than a month's rent. And then there it was. A clip just a few seconds long. A slow pan across pool chairs, sunlight glinting off glass, the sound of waves in the background. In the middle of it all, Emily, lying back on a lounge chair in a red two-piece I'd never seen before, sunglasses on, cocktail in hand. Her legs crossed toward someone sitting next to her. Him. The man from the convertible. Chase. He was sitting so close their knees touched. He leaned over and said something to her. She laughed. Not politely, not nervously. The way someone laughs when they're with someone they know int * mately. Then, right at the end of the clip, he leaned in and kissed the side of her neck. The video ended. I blinked. Went back. Watched it again. Slower this time. No way to misread it. No room for excuses. It was her. It was him. And it was real. I took a screenshot *T, then another. Then I looked at the usernames tagged in the post. One of them was his @ChaseHayden__. Private profile, but the name was enough. I opened a new tab and searched him. Public Facebook. Open Instagram posts. The guy was a little older than me. Maybe 35 or 36. Lived in the city. Apparently a brand strategist. Whatever that means. Every other post looked like it was straight out of a travel magazine. Hikes, cocktails, rooftop bars, drone *TS of beaches and vineyards. He had that curated kind of life that only exists online or in the minds of people who are desperately trying to be interesting. And there she was. In the photos. Emily didn't appear directly in many of them, but I found her. In the corner of a dinner photo. Same red dress she wore at that dinner party I barely remembered. In a blurry mirror *T at a cabin. Her reflection caught mid-step behind him. One photo was of 2 wine glasses on a balcony at sunset, and I recognized her fingernails on the stem of one. Pale blue polish, chipped at the corner. She'd painted them that color the week before. Another photo nearly broke me. It was of her. Not tagged, not named, just her, facing the ocean, her back to the camera, arms stretched out like she was weightless, like she had nothing to hide, her hair whipped by the wind, wearing a linen shirt that I thought was mine. I stared at that photo for a long time, longer than I probably should have, because that was the image that shattered everything. Not the pool video, not the kiss, not even the hotel receipts I would find later. It was the way she stood there, free, glowing, as if the life she shared with me didn't exist anymore. Like I had become a footnote, a name she said less and less, a life she slipped out of like a jacket she didn't want to wear anymore. I sat there, screen glowing in front of me, heart pounding in this slow, measured way, like my body had accepted something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. This wasn't just cheating. This was a life she'd built behind a locked door. A second self she slipped into when I wasn't looking. Not a one-time mistake. Not a flirtation. Not a drunken kiss or a misread hug. No, this was chosen. Again and again. Over weekends. Over lies. Over rerouted girls' nights and fake meetings and carefully curated explanations. Over the trust one gave her freely. Over me. And she hadn't even flinched. I checked the dates on the photos. The trip to Oregon? That had happened the same weekend. She told me she was sick and needed time alone to disconnect from work. I remember offering to bring her soup. She told me not to worry. She said she was resting. She said she loved me. I leaned back in my chair, my hands numb. There was nothing left to guess. Nothing to interpret. It was all right there. She had another life. Another us. And it had never included me. After I saw the photos, after I watched the video, read the captions, traced every line of evidence until there was no room left for doubt, I didn't confront her. That surprised me. The Ryan from 6 months ago, the one who still believed in her without hesitation, would have demanded answers right then. Would have asked why. Would have shouted, maybe cried. Would have wanted closure. But I was done asking for anything from her. I didn't want to hear her explanations or watch her twist her voice into soft sincerity. I didn't need more lies dressed as logic. I didn't want her apologies because they would only come if she got caught. And now I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't just about heartbreak. This was about disrespect. About the quiet cruelty of letting someone stay while you leave them in slow motion. About handing your life to a person and watching them hold it like something disposable. So no. I didn't yell. I prepared. Started that night. I stayed up late, headphones in, lights low, scrolling through every message, post, receipt, and record I could find. I saved everything. Screen recordings. *TS. Timestamps. I dug through our shared calendar and bank records. Cross-referenced hotel charges with the days she claimed to be with friends. I created a folder on my desktop called Personal. Innocent enough. Inside, I organized everything into subfolders: photos, messages, trips, bank statements, locations. Evidence. Not for revenge. For clarity. For justice. I wasn't going to be the fool who stood in court blindsided by a well-rehearsed speech. I wasn't going to sit through therapy sessions where she played the victim and I played the angry husband. I wasn't going to let her rewrite the story. This time, I'd write it myself. The next step was my lawyer. I'd never even considered needing one before. We weren't rich, didn't own multiple properties, had no kids. But we did have a house, shared accounts, and years of trust she'd turned into leverage. I didn't want a war. I wanted boundaries, legal, clear, irreversible. I found someone through a referral from an old college friend, a family law attorney named Meredith Shaw. She was sharp, measured, and didn't blink when I showed her the folder. "How long have you known?" she asked, scrolling through the **TS. "About a week," I said. "But looking back, probably a lot longer." She nodded, clicking through photos with the same calm a surgeon might use when examining an X-ray. "You've done your homework. This gives you solid footing. What's the next step? We'll file. Quietly. You don't have to tell her yet. Not until we're ready to serve. She won't see it coming, and that's to your advantage." I didn't smile, but I felt something settle in me. Not satisfaction exactly, But resolve, like the storm in my chest, had cleared just enough for me to move. There was one other person I couldn't stop thinking about. The man in the photos Chase had a very public life online. But in all the beach sunsets and champagne toasts and adventure partner captions, there was one detail he hadn't broadcast. He was married. I found her page through a tagged anniversary post from a year ago. Her name was Tessa. A nurse, from what I could tell. Minimal online presence. Photos of dogs, hikes, her parents. And him, smiling at her, holding her hand in front of a Christmas tree. I stared at that photo longer than I expected. They looked happy, or like they thought they were. I wondered if she knew, if she had also noticed the change, the distance, the phone turned face down, the sudden late nights and vague explanations. If she had also told herself she was imagining things, that she was being insecure. I clicked out of the browser and stood there for a long time, hands on the counter, stomach turning. She deserved to know, just like I did. But it had to be clean, not dramatic, not messy, not emotional. So I printed everything. Photos, messages, side-by-sides with dates and locations. I wrote a simple note. You don't know me, but I think you deserve the truth. I'm sorry you're seeing it this way. You didn't deserve it either. I sealed the envelope and found her work address through her LinkedIn page. I paid extra to have it delivered by courier, signature required. That way I'd know she got it, and that Chase wouldn't intercept it first. And then I waited. It's strange what you notice while you're pretending everything is normal. The way a person's voice shifts when they lie. The way they avoid eye contact not out of guilt but out of habit. The way they talk too much about things that don't matter just to avoid talking about the thing that does. Emily kept smiling, kept texting me sweet nothings, kept talking about planning a winter trip, about repainting the guest room, about us. I nodded through it all, because soon it wouldn't matter. 3 days after I sent the envelope to Tessa, Emily came home quiet. That was the first sign. She didn't say much during dinner, picked at her food, checked her phone constantly. I watched her glance at a message and quickly turned the screen off. She excused herself early and went to bed without finishing her wine. I stayed at the table long after she left, just listening to the silence. Something had shifted. The next day she was snappish. Not angry, just distant, frustrated. Like the mask was cracking. She accused me of being cold. Said I seemed off. I just looked at her and said, funny, I could say the same. She blinked, hesitated, then smiled forced. I didn't push, because I didn't have to. The story was already unraveling, and I wasn't the one pulling the thread anymore. Later that week, I got an email from Meredith. All papers are prepared. Let me know when you're ready. I stared at that line for a long time. Was I ready? I thought about the parking lot, about the pool, about the photo of her on the balcony, arms wide, free. I thought about how many nights I sat alone on the couch waiting for her to come home. About the half-hearted apologies, the gaslighting, the way she'd made me doubt my own instincts just to keep her lie intact. Yes, I was ready. I wrote back one word. Serve. The envelope was hand-delivered to her office on a Wednesday afternoon. I know that because Meredith arranged it that way midweek, midday. No time to spiral over the weekend. No morning chaos to disguise it. Just a clean, surgical drop. Emily didn't text me after. No calls. No explanation. Just silence. I imagined the moment it happened. Her at her desk. Maybe in the middle of drafting an email or sipping coffee from that silver tumbler she always kept by her side. The courier walks in. Plain envelope, her name typed neatly on the front. Maybe she thought it was a surprise. A gift. Promotion. And then reality. Inside, the divorce petition, the stack of photo evidence, and one short, typed sentence I insisted Meredith include. You know why. That night, I came home to an unusually quiet house. No music. No smell of dinner. No conversation humming from her side of the phone. Just silence. The kind that doesn't feel peaceful. The kind that buzzes at the edges of your nerves like a warning. She was sitting at the dining table. Hair tied back. No makeup. Sweatshirt instead of a blouse. Her phone screen was dark beside her, untouched. In front of her sat the envelope, still unsealed, documents spilling from the top. Next to it, a cup of tea, untouched. She looked up as I walked in. Her eyes were glassy, but dry. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "I guess I should have expected this," she said quietly. I set my keys on the counter. "But you didn't." She nodded once. Her fingers curled around the edge of the table like she needed to hold onto something to stay grounded. "I thought I had more time." "To do what?" I asked, my voice low. "Keep lying." Her eyes flinched, but she didn't look away. "No. To fix it." I leaned against the back of a chair, arms crossed. "There's no fixing this." She opened her mouth, closed it, stared down at the paperwork like it might rearrange itself into something more forgiving. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she finally said. A bitter laugh threatened to rise, but I swallowed it. "You didn't mean to hurt me, you just did, over and over. And you hid it. You let me carry this marriage while you built a second life behind my back." "I never stopped loving you," she whispered. I shook my head. "That's not love. You don't lie to someone you love. You don't look them in the eye every night, knowing what you've done, and still say, 'I love you,' like it means anything." She didn't argue. She just stared at the tea cooling in front of her. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, she looked stripped down. No defenses, no rehearsed lines, just small. She pulled the photo packet from the envelope and held it up. "Did you really have to include all of this?" I tilted my head. "You mean the truth?" She flinched again. This time she didn't speak. She flipped through the photos, the pool, the balcony, the beach. I could see her eyes scanning each frame like she hoped they'd somehow changed. Then she paused on the last one. The neck kiss. Her shoulders dropped. That was it. No screaming. No denial. No blame shifting. Just that one motion. Her body deflating into quiet acknowledgement. It was over. Not because I said it was. Because she knew it had been for a long time. "I didn't want it to be like this," she said softly. I pulled out a chair and sat across from her, keeping my voice even. "But it is like this." She nodded slowly, then ran a finger over the rim of the teacup. "Does she know?" she asked. Took me a second. "Chase's wife." Emily gave the faintest nod. I made sure she found out. She blinked, looked up. "Why?" "Because she deserved the truth, just like I did." For the first time, something flickered in her expression. Shame, regret, or maybe just the realization that the ripple effects of what she did weren't just mine to absorb. She stared down at the petition. Her fingers hovered above the signature line. "You're really doing this?" "I already did. But we can go to counseling." "We can." "No," I said, calm but final. "This isn't about fixing something. You didn't drop a glass. You shattered the floor." Silence. Just the distant hum of the refrigerator and the tap-tap of her fingers on the edge of the form. She stared at the pen for a long time. Then she picked it up. She didn't cry. Didn't say, "I'm sorry" again. She just signed her name in one smooth motion, flipped the page and signed the next. When she slid the papers back toward me, her hands trembled. Barely, but enough for me to notice. "Where do we go from here?" she asked. "You'll stay in the guest room," I said, "until we finalize the property split. Meredith's handling the details." "And after that?" I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in weeks, and I said, "I go forward. You figure out what that means for you." She pressed her lips together like she was holding back a dozen things she didn't know how to say. I didn't care. I stood, gathered the papers, and walked them into the office. When I came back, she was still sitting there, still staring at the tea, still silent. That night, I packed up everything of mine that mattered. Not to leave the house, but to clear the bedroom. I moved into the den, took only what I needed, left the rest in neat piles. I didn't want drama. I wanted distance. The following days were strange, quiet. We passed each other like shadows in our own home. No shouting matches, no late-night sobbing, just silence and paperwork. She made herself small. Like if she moved quietly enough, it wouldn't be real. I kept to myself. Went to work. Cooked my own meals. Slept like a man who finally stopped bracing for impact. There were moments, short ones, where she tried to talk. About the weather. About the dog barking next door. About anything other than what we were going through. I didn't bite. I wasn't cruel. But I was done giving her comfort while she mourned a thing she led herself. The final meeting with the lawyer came a week later. A quiet room. Beige walls. 2 chairs. A table. Emily wore a black sweater and no makeup. Her hands stayed folded in her lap, knuckles pale. She looked like someone attending a funeral. I wore a button down and didn't look at her. The attorney read through the final terms. House would stay with me. Car with her. Joint savings divided. No alimony, we'd both agreed. No children. No custody battles. No assets to fight over. Just a simple, cold ending. Any final remarks? Meredith asked, looking between us. Emily opened her mouth, then closed it again. She shook her head. I signed. Then she signed. When we stood to leave, she turned to me, her voice barely above a whisper. Will you ever talk to me again? I met her gaze and said the last thing I would ever say to her face. I already said everything I needed to when I watched you hold his hand and wished you sunny skies. She didn't follow me out, didn't call after me, didn't cry, and I didn't look back. A month later, I was at a friend's backyard barbecue. Music, laughter, nothing forced. Kelly, the one whose Instagram story revealed the truth, approached me with quiet understanding in her eyes. We talked not about Emily but life. Real life. In that moment, I realized I wasn't broken. Just free. I had room again. For peace, for friendships, maybe even love. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't looking back. Emily came back one afternoon, maybe to talk, maybe to beg. But the house was empty. My things were gone. On the counter sat her favorite mug, and next to it, a note. I no longer live in the shadow of someone else's script. She called, texted. Nothing. I had already left city, home, life. She stayed behind, staring at the space where a future used to be. I didn't run from her. I walked into something better with both eyes open.